think all hands need to be on deck to be able to A, set up the commission, B, put all the structures and framework in place for enabling effective implementation of the legislation. This includes drafting the legislative instrument, because the law speaks about adopting regulations to basically further cure some of the gaps or operationalize some of the provisions in the legislation, and that's a conversation that needs to start sooner rather than later. There also needs to be a robust process of sensitization, simplifying the law, for example, because it's quite text heavy, and even for some lawyers it will be a challenge just breaking it down and digesting it, much less those who are not schooled in legalese. So simplifying it so that you don't even have to be educated to understand what the law says, and then also having it translated into local languages, like somebody said, so that at least it becomes available to those who are not necessarily literate, because this law is not benchmarked on literacy. It's actually your right as a human being, and then using that as frameworks for popularizing the legislation amongst local communities, and also getting media institutions to also take popularizing the legislation as part of their corporate social responsibility, so that they do it without charging those, without asking for cost, but as part of the process of enlightenment. Getting the law also places a lot of premium that there will be quite some level of dispute resolution, because the judiciary will have to interpret quite a number of the provisions, because there's also quite some discretion in it. Again, getting the judiciary's capacity built and getting into a partnership with the judiciary to understand the need for progressive interpretation of the provisions, and also speaking with professional groups like the Bar Association to provide pro bono services to indigent applicants who would have their requests refused and cannot afford fees and want to go to court if their request doesn't pass the test of internal review and doesn't also get support at the level of the commission. So there is that to also do, and that creates lots of opportunities as well in terms of how to drive it, and several other groups in terms of professional groups that would also need to get on board to make this realized. A lot of the challenges in the earlier text of the bill, to be frank, have been addressed in the current text. So the current text is actually significantly progressive than previous text, and you can never have a perfect legislation. So, and even when you have what is supposed to look like a perfect legislation, by the time you start implementing the legislation, you would also find out that there are gaps that were not thought about at inception. So it's going to be work in progress, but implementation needs to start, and needs to start immediately.